Badulama Atma Bhakto Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavat Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam Sopyastiya Prabhavadisim Avichintya Tadbhe Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekyopyaso Raititam Jagananda Kotim Yakchakshar Asta Jagarananda Chayam Yarantam Andatarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manichasta Taivam Samprapya Rupa Manima Sanayana Bhusha Suktaya Ema Vigama Pratitai Stuvanti Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nija Rupa Taya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasat Akilatma Bhutto Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santasadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundarama Chintya Guna Sarupam Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Yamena Tishtan Nanavatara Akaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamanyo Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananta Koti Kotishvashesha Vasadari Vibhuti Binham Tad Brahma Niskalam Ananta Vishesha Bhutam Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Yasya Garanandi Satani Sute Trigunyata Visaya Veda Vitaya Manha Sadvam Valamba Parasadvam Visura Sadvam Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Yat Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetyam Lila Itena Bhuvanani Jagatjayasram Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Golokanami Nijadami Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesha Haridamuti Tesu Tesu Te Te Prabhavanichaya Vihitaschayena Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sristi Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Sakti Eka Chayeva Yasha Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupa Apiyasya Chatesa Tesa Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yatha Dahi Vikara Vishesha Yogham Sanjayate Nahi Tatha Priti Asti Hetu Yan Sambhutam Abhitata Samobhaiti Karyad Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Diparchi Evi Dasatam Apupakupetyam Dipayate Vivata Hetu Samana Dharmam Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarana navajavabhatiya smayogham Nidram ananta jagarananta saromakupam Andhara shakti avalamya param swamurtim Govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami Yasyaikami visita kalam apatavalambhyam Jivanti loga vilaja jaganandanata Vishnur mahasayasya kala vishesho Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Baswanyatasma Sakaleshu Nijesha Teja Sriyam Kiya Prakataya Apitadvad Atra Brahmaya Esa Jagad Andi Vidana Karta Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad pada palavabhyugam vividhana kumbham Dvandhe pramade samaye saganadi rajam Vigna vahantu alamasya jagatrayasya Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir mahi gananam ambu marudhyascha Kalastatami manasita jagatrayani Yasmam bhavanti vibhavanti visanti yamcha Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yachakshiresa savita sagala grahanam Raja samata suramurtam ashesha tesa Yasya gyaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharma tapapa nichaya srutayas tapamsi Brahmari kirta pataga vadayascha jivam Yadata matra vibhava prakata prabhava Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastvindra Gopava Avahendra Aho Swakarma Bandhanurupa Falabhajananatanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kinchucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Saha Pranayari Biti Vatsalya Moha Gura Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchinta Tasya Sadisam Tanu Aparete Govindam Hare Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Paramo Purusho Kalpatarabho Druma Bhumis Chintam Minigana Mayatoya Amritam Katha Ganam Natya Garanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chir Ananda Jyotir Param Apitad Asvayam Apicham Sayat Shashirabir Savatir Surabir Yascha Sumahan Nime Sardokya Va Rajati Nahir Yatrapis Samaye Bhaje Sveta Dipam Tamaham Miha Goloka Itiyam Vadantaste Sata Shiti Varya Kachara Katipaye Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarnakarna Karnam Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Bandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Pandekamalam Shigurun Vaishnavamscha Sirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Desatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Tapta Kanchara Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki jai. So on behalf of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, we are happy and very much privileged to have the opportunity to take advantage of this offer to act on his behalf. On his behalf, we are what we say as his representative to act during his departure, to continue to nourish his disciples in the process of devotional service. His mercy is always available, although that mercy is a little bit harder to understand, but it's still being manifested by his mercy as long as we carefully and what we say very attentively follow the process of devotional service as given by Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. So we're giving tonight, or we're offering tonight for two candidates for the second initiation. We call that Brahminical initiation. Sometimes it's known as the Upanaya Sanskara. It's one of the 16 samskaras. Samskaras are the different stages of life by which one has to pass through in order to reach different levels of purification on their way back home, back to Godhead. These samskaras are fundamental. At least many of the major samskaras, particularly the Upanaya samskara. So the initiation process itself is actually one, but in due course of time, due to people taking advantage of the facility to accept the Brahminical initiation and not being somewhat qualified, therefore Bhakti Siddhanta, following in the footsteps of his Guru Maharaj Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and now we have His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, kept this process of dividing the initiation into two sections, which is Harinam initiation and Brahminical initiation. Brahminical initiation is the complete initiation. It's actually the real initiation. Harinam is meant to prepare you ultimately to develop those qualities, and that's why it was divided, because people were surreptitiously or pretentiously just adopting this principle of acting as Brahmins, developing their own ideas, and therefore it became a farce. And this was very much common during the time of Bhakti Vinod Thakur and also Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So the second initiation, as Srila Prabhupada was asked one time, what is the relationship between the first and the second initiation. And he gave a very simple definition. He says, just like you go through the educational process and then you have the preliminary grades and then you have the higher grades. So in order to complete the education, one has to go through both sections of the education. So this is the complete, at least as far as the process of concern, to connect the disciples to the parampara system in a very shastric way, according to the rules and regulations of the Pancharatriki Vidhi. And so we follow that, and when we speak about second initiation, we call it Brahminical initiation, and it has that terminology because it defines certain characteristics and qualities that are meant to be developed in order to achieve that position, and at the same time that those qualities and characteristics have to be the fundamental emphasis in the execution of our devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains very carefully what are the qualities of a Brahmin: and peacefulness, truthfulness, cleanliness, simplicity, austerity, religiousness, gyan vigyan, knowing scripture and be able to realize the scripture through the practice of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada was very concerned that people who were taking second initiation were not taking it seriously. So in 1976, in a discussion with some of his senior sannyasis, this particular subject came up. And Prabhupada very carefully explained, as the devotees were describing that people were taking second initiation but were not following their vows strictly or carefully. Prabhupada said, now we should institute this principle of education in our society. Therefore, 10 books, that's what he said. This is people must pass, or the devotees must learn our philosophy and pass tests to give them accreditations that they have this knowledge, at least philosophically. Because Brahminical, when you speak of a Brahmin, you speak of 6 activities of the Brahmin. Patan, Pachan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. Patan means to know the scriptures. Patan means to teach others philosophical and spiritual knowledge. So not only knowing it, but disseminating it as a service to others. Yajan means to worship the Lord in his deity form, Archa Vigraha, and to be able to teach others also. And the last 2 are Dana Pratigahar. Brahmins accept charity and also give charity in return. So these are the 6 activities that are mentioned. And so as devotees, our most important understanding is to engage in devotional service and exhibiting those qualities and simultaneously cultivating those qualities in the activities of our devotional service. It's not simply about getting a thread and having a mantra and being on the higher echelon of devotional service. It's actually being much more responsible in the execution of our devotional service. There are 3, but there are many, but there are 3 main activities in our ISKCON society which are considered to be Brahminical activities in and of itself. One is to be able to, and to have the facility to cook for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Second is to worship the Lord in his deity form on the altar and doing puja work or puja service. And the third is preaching. These 3 are considered absolute principles of Brahminical life. And there are others. But what is the most important thing along with the activities is that we cultivate these qualities. Because a person in Krishna consciousness is not so much known by what they do, but what they are. Character is actually the indication of a person's growth in spiritual life. what is their character and how that character is being exhibited in everyday life, especially in their execution of devotional service. So we mention these 9, which are mentioned by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita as the 9 main qualities of a Brahmin. So it's very important that we understand them and practice them in Krishna consciousness, and at the same time execute our devotional service. Being in that category of serving in Brahminical and Brahminical status means to be an ideal example for everyone else. There's nothing can be lacking. So it's incumbent that we understand how important it is, because we have somewhat of a history of people taking Brahminical initiation for the wrong reason. And when I say the wrong reason, I can tell you one of them: we need a pujari. We need a cook. That is the wrong reason. It's not the reason to give people second initiation. And that came up in the discussion with Srila Prabhupada, when one devotee said, sometimes because we need someone to do cooking or pujari work, we give second initiation to people. Prabhupada said, not like that. So you can see, even Srila Prabhupada was approached with these things. These things may be necessary, but it's about the character and the qualifications of the person that gives them the opportunity to serve in that way, and not so much the temple needs. Of course, we consider the temple needs, but that doesn't become prominent, and it should never become prominent. Well, now, because the temple needs it, we have to look for people who are been around for a while, and they haven't had second initiation yet. So let's put some rubber stamps in different places. That's not the whole idea. The idea is to execute devotional service, exhibiting these qualities, which are the qualities of the mode of goodness. Because only in devotional service can we serve in the mode of goodness. The mode of passion and the mode of ignorance, these activities they do not facilitate devotional service. Only in the mode of goodness, as we mentioned, those 9, and there are many other qualities also. Knowledge is very important. If someone asks you, can you speak something on Krishna consciousness, you have to be able to do that. That's what it means to be Brahminically qualified, to know the scriptures and to be able to speak at any given time when asked to speak, or when one is asked a question related to scripture, related to devotional service. It's very important. So I'm emphasizing this point because we've seen the history of our society is that it becomes a little bit less in the activities, because a lot of times we feel, oh yes, I'm so enthusiastic when the initiation comes, but when the challenges comes, when our qualities are being challenged, when our service is being given in difficult times, do we remain fixed? And one of the qualities of a Brahmin is equipoise, or sober. It's called dhira, not moved by happiness and distress. The whole material world works under this principle, that when life is good, I'm happy. When it's not good according to my standards, then I feel unhappy or depressed. A devotee is not affected by that. Happiness and distress will come and go. That's the nature of this material world. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, just as the seasons change, so the moods of happiness and distress are always come. A devotee is, especially those who are situated in the initiation of Brahminical, should not be disturbed by happiness and distress, because that is a very materialistic tendency, and it doesn't fit into devotional service, because we know devotional service is on the transcendental platform, and happiness and distress is simply our perception. It has nothing to, a lot of time it does has anything to do what's going on in the external environment. We perceive happiness and distress according to our own ideas. Stay steady in devotional service. That's one of the key principles of the Brahminical life, that steady despite whatever situation we find ourselves in or whatever situation we may be challenged in due to whatever circumstances come. I'm emphasizing these things because really, when we look at the history of our society, we find there are many people who have Brahminical initiation who are not doing Brahminical service and are not exhibiting Brahminical qualities. And this is a problem. And this is a problem. It makes our society look something less than what Srila Prabhupada gave us. So be ideal, and that ideal is that ideal character, that the ideal exhibition of your devotional service is preaching. It's the best way to preach, because we can preach by words, but behavior is higher, as it says in the Shastras. Example is higher than precept. What you say is nice, but what you do is what speaks. No. So I'm emphasizing these things because, I've been seeing, and a lot of times people are just eager for the initiation, but are not so much enthusiastic to come up to the standard of what that initiation process is offering us as far as devotional service. So that's something we have to cultivate. And the most important thing in our Krishna consciousness is to chant very carefully every day without fail on beats 16 rounds. We cannot miss that. And that is something that cannot be put secondary in our life. It has to be foremost. Chant the holy names of the Lord. Try to purify yourself by avoiding the 10 offenses of the holy name, and chant with attention and devotion. If you do that regularly, and you make that one of your actually the main part of your devotional service, you will never have any difficulty in Krishna consciousness. And whatever difficulties you may encounter will be easily accepted as opportunities for advancement in Krishna consciousness. So keep our rounds, and that's why in the second initiation sometimes we ask the candidates to renew their initial vows that they took during the first initiation. You promise to continue to follow the 4 regulative principles, and to chant every day 16 rounds on beads without fail, minimum. So with that much said, we congratulate you for coming to this stage of accepting this responsibility in Krishna consciousness. It's a responsibility because it becomes more and more a feature of preaching, and when you're in that category. You preach by example, you preach by your words, both. So thank you very much. And those of you who are first initiation and or maybe also considering soon, or at least in the future, I would also like to get second initiation. Consider these points that we discussed tonight. It's about qualities and it's about activities. It's not about position. Position has very little to do with it. You might think, well, I'm a Brahmin, I'm advanced. Forget that. I have my thread and you don't. And this is cartoons. That's all that is. ICC Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. Okay. And the last thing, just to give a little enunciation to the whole point, is try to offer your time and energy to serve the other devotees by helping them in their Krishna consciousness. That's also a part of taking Brahminical initiation. So thank you very much. Wish you the best. And by the grace of your spiritual master, you're fully blessed and you're very fortunate. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Now we'll do the fire yajna as we say swaha. You will pick grains with these three fingers and throw it into the fire. Okay? When we say, and you can repeat after me. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Swaha 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 Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Swaha 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 Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Candramauli Swamin Iti Namine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakticharu Swamin Iti Namine Snigdhachetah Supraneta Vagminam Cha Rasaplutam Prabhupada Gataprana Naumi Bhakticharu Padam Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Madhuryojjvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida श्री गौर करुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुग विरुद्ध अपसिद्धांत ध्वांतहारिणे स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलंभर सांबोधे पादाम्बुजायते नमः। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंदनामिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवरायते। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। गौराविर्भाम भूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्ट सज्जनप्रियः वैष्णवा सार्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यां नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। जयतां सुरतौ पंगो मम मंद मतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्व पदाम्भोजौ राधा मदनमोहनौ। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। दिव्याद वृंदारण्य कल्पद्रुमादः श्रीमद् रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवौ पृष्ठालिभि सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि। स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा। श्रीमान् रासरसारंभी वंशीवट तटस्थितः कर्षन्वेणु स्वनैर्गोपीर् गोपीनाथ श्रियैस्तु नः। स्वाहा 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 तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये स्वाहा 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 जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद स्वाहा 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा. Now the final mantra, you will stand holding the banana in both your hands, and when we say swaha, that's when you will put in the fire. Please stand. Grains we can put later. Grains also. So banana and grains together. नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः. स्वाहा स्वाहा स्वाहा. Place in the fire.
It doesn't burn it.
Now we'll have kirtan for a few minutes and you can circumambulate the fire 3 times.